Welcome to I'ma Talk About It. I'm Alicia E., empowerment coach and ancestral healer, and I'm here to teach you how to break generational cycles, self-advocate, and ascend to happiness without the guilt of wanting a better life for yourself. You don't have to choose the same path as those before you. You can choose a better way, your way. Because if we can each heal ourselves today, we can heal the world tomorrow together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we have a very interesting topic. Today's episode, let me start with that. It's called The Light Within You, and we're going to talk about living with depression. This is a very important topic to me. I don't feel like it's talked about often. I actually feel like it's a very sensitive subject that we've shunned as a society for a very long time. And I even think it gets joked about a lot. Like, oh, that's just depressing, or, blah, blah, blah. I don't think very many people understand how to express those feelings. Sometimes I feel like when people start to joke about something, they could actually be feeling something serious and it comes out as a joke. So I wanted to create this episode to share tips and advice for anybody who may be experiencing depression, because I feel like it can be very difficult to talk about. And I want to make sure that we are speaking about depression in a respectful way and educating ourselves accordingly. So this podcast episode could literally be for anyone. A lot of people go undiagnosed and don't even know they have depression, or maybe you're just having a rough time. Or maybe you literally know that you have been diagnosed with depression, but either way, this episode is for you. So I want to make sure that we talk about this in a safe and open place. And just to add on with living with depression, a lot of people don't know that they have it. There's also a stigma in a lot of cultures about talking about your emotions, or not being accepted to talk about your emotions, especially where the mentalities, where I've talked about this before, the keep your head down and work, or keep working, or keep quiet, or don't make waves. A lot of the time, that sort of atmosphere makes a person suppress a lot of the emotions that they're feeling and not feel safe enough to express them. You may even be retaliated against for expressing them. So as you go through time, or as you navigate as an adult, it makes it a lot harder to ask for help, or to navigate your own emotions, or to know when to ask for help, or what to do for yourself or for someone you have in your life that may be experiencing it. Or it's sometimes difficult to literally feel those emotions. Like, we might even block them just from being in those atmospheres. So it's important to continue to break the silence and to communicate with everyone that it is okay to talk about it without shame, without guilt, because it's nothing to be shameful about, nothing to feel guilty about. It is something that just happens in people's lives, and we need to get used to talking about it so we can heal from it, right? Rather than encouraging silence and even suffering in silence, because it's a really dangerous way to live. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that you are not alone in whatever journey you might be going through. And I also want to add that depression comes in many different forms, and it looks really different on everybody. Some symptoms that I may have may not show up in another person, or they might show up in another person. But just for more common symptoms, you may feel overly lethargic, or having lack of interest in things that you usually love or that brings you joy and light. You might be experiencing intense moods or feelings. I know for myself that sometimes it really does feel like I'm empty and void, and I might even be experiencing death, especially when my anxiety flares up at the same time, more specifically during transitional times in my life. You can also forget information, and you can experience it postpartum, like after having a baby. That's also not talked about, but super important to stay mindful of. And the list goes on and on. You can always do your own research or talk to someone about it if you are curious, if maybe you might have depression, or if you just want to go to the library, read about it, educate yourself as much as possible, because sometimes when we educate ourselves, we can also help other people. And I do want to point out that it can be, and is, in my opinion, very dangerous that society has conditioned people to hide these parts of our lives. Even with social media, you see it all the time. People showing all of the high points of their life, but they're not showing the struggling parts of their lives. I think this gets brought up more so in shows sometimes, but on social media, it's almost like an endless chase for a life that is unrealistic. And you rarely come across people who are actually talking about their difficult times, right? Because there's so much fear of judgment. It's just not comfortable. Social media can feel very daunting and unaccepting a lot of the times, and it causes a lot of damage. So that can affect a lot of people's life, and it still is. Our society has also, especially in the US, made it very difficult to also attain help or assistance if you have depression. Medication is very expensive. Seeing a therapist or a psychiatrist is also very expensive. We don't have health care for everybody, so if you do not have insurance, it's very difficult to find resources that you need. So it's important that we continue to have these conversations, so as we go through life, we can continue to evaluate and address the issues that we have within our society to better support people who do have depression or might be experiencing depression, so that everyone has a happy and helpful and healthy life. So today, for anyone like myself who may be living with depression or may think they have depression or have felt it at one time or another in their life, again, know that you are not alone, and that you also have this magnificent light within you that sometimes, the way I describe it to myself, sometimes that light is hidden. Sometimes I hide it myself. Sometimes my mind hides it from me, and things can feel really dark and challenging. So we have to work a little bit harder to get to a place of joy and a place of love that definitely lives inside us, and that we are the creators of those experiences. So I just want to share that because depression, at least for myself, can also make a person feel very hopeless. And I want to remind everybody that there's absolutely hope out there, and there's absolutely a light within you. So continue to keep going about life, because there is so much beauty in it, and there is so much beauty in you. I wanted to share a quick story about an experience that I had and how I've learned to work through my depression, because again, I want to normalize talking about it and what it actually looks like for some people. And my story may be completely different than somebody else's. I've dealt with it my whole life. I also have PTSD and anxiety and adjustment disorder. So sometimes when they all collide, it makes it very difficult to maintain a certain functionality. And there's also a lot of pressure to continue to function in a different way or up to other people's expectations. And I also want to encourage people to do what's best for them, and to not feel like they have to live up to others' expectations, and to do what is best for you in that moment. So I wanted to talk about a time in my life. It was actually a couple years ago, and even more recently. I was in a very challenging place in my life. It was a very dark period for me. I had been out of my marriage for a while. I was experiencing financial hardship. I was trying to figure out life. There were things in the media that were making it very hard for me to function. I could not get home to see my family. I couldn't afford to see my family. And my depression mixed in with my anxiety, mixed in with my PTSD, made it very, very difficult for me to function day to day. And I was experiencing for quite a long time physical, like bodily pain. It hurt in my chest, it hurt in my body. I was achy, as if I had like a really bad flu, but I didn't have the flu. I also suffered from insomnia, like really, really bad. I would try and, get things to take to help me fall asleep, but nothing was working. And I was extremely exhausted because I was staying up all night trying to sleep, and then having to go to work the next day or like look for a job the next day. And I was tired. I like was so sleep deprived. I was suffering from sleep deprivation, and I also couldn't eat. It wasn't that I didn't want to eat. There was just no desire to eat or ability to eat or a reminder to eat. It was almost like I was going through the day and food didn't even cross my mind. I wasn't hungry. I had suppressed hunger. Um, I wasn't even drinking water. There were some times where I would feel faint and wouldn't even realize that it had been like a little over a day that I hadn't drank any water or hadn't had anything to drink. Um, and I couldn't even bring myself to get out of bed. It felt like I was a brick, or like many bricks in bed, just feeling really heavy, and not wanting to be out in the world, not wanting to talk to anybody. And it was really strange because I also remember that some days I would see, the light shining through, and I would be like, I'm so tired of being tired. But then I felt like I needed to cry, and so I would cry for hours and hours and hours. And it happened for weeks. And, after I would have these crying spurts, I would try and get myself outside, or I would try to inspire myself, and then that sadness turned into anger because I was also processing a lot going on at the time, and I was yelling at my steering wheel because I was sitting in my car and just being so frustrated, that I like couldn't get past this, that I couldn't shake whatever had its hold on me, and that I felt so stuck there. And sometimes that would turn into like, what have I done? I started blaming myself. And I also felt really betrayed by myself. Like I betrayed myself, which is odd to say out loud, but sometimes, at least for me, when my depression kicks in, I feel like I pulled something shady over my eyes, and that is why I'm here, And I was also feeling really betrayed by my own spirituality at the time. And I feel like most spirituals who go through life-changing things, like sometimes will experience this because it's very, very difficult. And I remember sitting in my car and just like hoping that someone or something out in the universe would just hear me this one time if I yelled, like, I need you to help me. Like, I don't know what to do. And I remember the next day I actually met Michaela, who, if you don't know Michaela, she is amazing. She does a self-embodiment journey, which is phenomenal. And I remember speaking with her and wanting to be a part of that, but not having the money. And she was like, like, let's just have a conversation about it. And she was incredible at holding space. I don't even know how she did it, but I felt so safe in that moment. And I talked and talked and talked, and she held no judgment. She was so supportive, and it felt like such a gift because I had felt so unsafe for so long, and I felt like I couldn't tell anybody what I was going through at all. And my own story at the time was a lot of shame, and I was exhausted, so I didn't want people to know. And going through what I went through, and even after divorce and leaving your job, there's all these expectations of like, what are you doing? Like, friends start asking questions. Like, it's very exhausting. And it was such an amazing experience to be able to talk with her. And she had even invited me to think about like what I wanted out of life. Like, no one had asked me anything, but I also was shutting myself off from the world and shutting myself off from potential support that could have been there. And so after that call, I told myself that I needed to keep going because I felt so much better after just having one space that I could talk to someone in without judgment. And I remember the morning after that, like, even though I cried, I was like, today I'm going to get up and I'm just going to try to take the covers off, and I'm going to sit up and I'm going to take one breath at a time. I feel like I'm going to get emotional. I'm always getting emotional, by the way. And just that conversation with her reminded me that I could do this, and that there was still people out there who were there, like, doing the work and were there to support me. I just had to look. I just had to be open to receiving it or feeling it or accepting that I needed help, because that's also a narrative of mine that goes deep within my own family of asking for help or not wanting to ask for help, and perfectionism, like I've talked about before. And just those little actions turned into me discovering more people within this group, how I had hidden so many things away from me, how I was shaming my body, and all of these things that were coming out of not just depression, but all of these generational cycles that I was holding on to, and that I was not equipped to deal with them, but I had learned to deal with them in this safe community. And I even stumbled upon like an amazing moon circle, which allowed me to go on a spiritual quest. So all of these actions that I took with Michaela, that I took to trust myself, to open up, and to just try and do a little bit at a time, helped me discover this circle that then helped me reignite also my spirituality that was so important to me. And that gave me so much light in a time that felt so dark. And I remember going on a quest during the circle and some people are like, oh, I didn't see anything. And I was like, I had the weirdest quest. Like, I was in this tent, I was not doing well, like on the edge of life, and my guides came in and they're like, Alicia, what did we tell you about not speaking your truth? Like, why are you hiding? And basically, like, gave me something and then was like, we need you to go on your way and like continue to speak, continue to be a part of this world. And so I was like, wow, like I've just been blocking it so much, like depression can be very, very hard because you can't always see or feel or experience all of the amazing things. It's like this like invisible force field that bounces everything off of you and all you want to do is nothing. Or at least that's how it feels to me. And so from then on, I said, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep tapping into my spirituality. I'm going to keep getting up every day and pulling the blankets back, and I'm going to stretch and I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to tap in, and I'm going to be there for myself so I can also be a part of these communities because I love these communities and I'm not the only one going through this. And people were like, thank you for sharing your story because I have been feeling the same way and I didn't know how to say it. And so it's so important that we share our own stories, even if it's really hard to do, because our story not only heals us, but heals other people, even when we least expect it. And so I kept sharing my story and my experiences until I came to a place where I was healed. And then I personally decided that I would also go to therapy because I felt like that's what resonated with me and I needed the extra help. And then I discovered mentors and I just went on a learning tangent to help myself, to continue to educate myself, to bring myself out of this really tough depression. But I had to keep going. I had to accept that I had choices, even when it felt like I had no choices. And every day it got a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And eventually I could fully take care of myself. And I discovered that the light within me was always there. Always there. I had just hidden it away from myself. And I needed to be reminded that I could have a different life with that light. But I couldn't have that life unless I gave myself a full shot at being open and learning something new. In my case, it was learning to receive love and support from others that unlocked a path out of my depression, a different path. And it doesn't mean it just fully goes away. It just means that I found a way to support myself. And so I could find support in others and get it when I need to, and I can support them as well when they need it. So if you are experiencing depression, or even if you're not, I want you to always do these 4 things. Just these 4 things. And even if you can't do the 4, I want you to at least do the 1. So number 1, I'm going to go through each one real slow, just to make sure it sticks. So the first one, the minute you wake up, I want you to go outside or go to a window and embrace the sun or fresh air. Just be there in that moment, existing. Hearing the sounds around you or not hearing the sounds around you. Feeling the presence, if there's sun, feeling the warmth on your skin, even if there's wind or there's rain, whatever it is, whatever nature is showing you today, embracing it and breathing it in. because there is so much life in the world. And I want you to experience it first thing in the morning, because the first moment of when we wake up is the most crucial when we are dealing with depression, especially when it's coming at a very rapid pace. So allowing ourselves that space in the morning to slow down without any distractions and to just be a part of nature that is so supportive is going to help you so much. Not only that, the sun and just the light is going to reset your alarm clock, your internal alarm clock, and it's going to align you with nature. So it's going to help you get better sleep, especially if you have insomnia like I did. So I began to align myself with nature every single day, so my body would naturally help put itself to sleep so I could sleep. Because sleep deprivation is so dangerous. So dangerous. My sister talks about it in our podcast about mental health earlier in this season. So go check it out. She talks about it. But make sure that you are waking up, enjoying this moment, and taking it all in for however long you have or however long you want to be there, whatever feels right. I do not want you to rush. I just want you to be a part of that morning moment. And the second one, I want you to move in whatever way feels good to you. Whatever your body is yearning to do that day. If it is stretching, I want you to stretch. Whatever stretches you know. Doesn't even have to be anything particular. But just tune in with your body. Where does it feel tight? Where is it carrying the load of these emotions? I want you to breathe into those spaces. And mine, it's always in my chest. So I do a lot of chest openers to help open up my chest and energetically open it up so I can start to feel relaxation again there. Even if you want to massage with your hands, you can do that, or have your partner if you have a partner or a companion or a friend. Sometimes that's really nice. I want you to dance if you feel like dancing or wiggling, jumping up and down, running, walking, strolling, anything. I want you to do whatever feels right to you, because you will know what you want to do. And then the third one, I want you to say to yourself, and you can change this if you want to, I feel great and I can do this. I want you to say that to yourself, because the mind is a very, very powerful thing. And when we attach ourselves too quickly or too much to these narratives inside of our head that may be there from past traumas, that, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, I can't do this, it becomes our truth. And then our mind goes into like a hyper fixation on those thoughts, and it's working to affirm those thoughts over and over and over and over again, because we're asking the mind to focus on that, and that's it. And what we're doing when we say something else, like, I feel great and I can do this. If you need to say it 10 million times, I want you to say it 10 million times. So your brain starts to reprogram itself to, I feel great and I can do this. And if you want to say, I feel shitty, but I can do this, you can do that too. But I want you to say, I feel great and I can do this, because I want you to also practice calling in what you want for your intention for that day. Or what you want for yourself. I feel really fucking happy. I want you to have your phrase, I feel really fucking happy and I can do this. Right? Of course you can do this. You can do this. You've been doing it. Sometimes we just need a reminder. And if you need to write it on something, or print it out, put it on your phone. Even if you put it as a calendar reminder that like sends to you in the morning or something. I don't know. Be creative. And then the fourth one is, which is one of the most important ones as well, I want you to make sure you are eating nourishing meals that you love. Because sometimes with depression, and I don't know if this is true for you, but for myself, when I really don't feel like doing something, I resist things even more because I have told myself I just don't want to. So find foods that are nourishing to you, that make your body feel good, that you actually love. So if you love sushi, go for sushi. If you want soups, go for soups. If you want green juices, whatever it is, I want you to do it, but I want you to find really nourishing food. Because if we fuel our bodies with food that is not meant to be in our bodies, it can be really challenging to come out of these episodes, if they're episodes, or maybe it's all of the time, but it makes it a lot more difficult because our body will likely feel out of whack or out of alignment, and we already feel out of alignment. So it's better to help your body feel good so you can begin to boost your mood. So you don't feel as tired. So you have the energy to get out of bed. So when you sleep well, you wake up and you feel good and you feel motivated to eat. So it's important that you find food that's nourishing and that you love. And I also want to throw this in there for point number 4. I want you to be drinking water. Water is so important. I always encourage people to drink water, even during all of my calls. You got water, you got warm water, you drinking warm water in the morning. You'll probably get sick of me hearing this, but I want you to be drinking water. You need to drink water. Dehydration is also going to make you tired, and your body needs water to function. It seems simple, but so many people do not drink enough water. So trust me, I want you to drink water because sometimes you can also get headaches. It's just a lot. So do your best to keep yourself in balance. So again, number 1, I want you to enjoy the morning and embrace nature. Be in the moment. Take some deep breaths. Number 2, I want you to move in whatever way resonates. And number 3, I want you to affirm how you want to feel, how you are feeling. I feel great. I can do this. I can fucking do this. I feel really happy. Encourage yourself. And eat nourishing foods and drink water. That is number 4. So I hope that this episode was valuable to you. I hope it was helpful. I hope that you are all supporting each other and holding these conversations because it's super, super important. Again, if you are feeling any severe symptoms, I want you to always seek help. There are also hotlines available 24/7 to call for assistance. And if you know someone in need, please help them out. I do also offer calls sometimes to people who are in serious need. So if you are needing some space to be held for you, I am definitely here to listen and to help you also find resources that can support you. And again, I want to remind everybody that Ascend to Happiness, my program, starts in a few weeks. And we are going to be talking much more about holding sacred space for yourself during challenging times and how to continue to rise out of them and support yourself in a nourishing way that aligns with your spirituality and aligns with what you want out of life. For example, for myself, Damayana, which is an herb, is one of my favorite supportive plants that I like to drink during transitions because I need the extra support. I also lean on lemongrass. I also have other Ayurvedic practices and yoga, everything, meditations to help myself find the light within me again. So I am here to support you. If you need extra support, reach out to me. I'm happy to have you in the program. I'm happy to speak to you if you have questions. Find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, just let me know. The link to the program will be in the show notes, and we start in a couple weeks. So thank you all again for showing up for yourself, for showing up for me. I hope you found value in this discussion, and I look forward to sharing the rest of the episodes with you. And that is a wrap.
Hey, if you're ready to ascend to happiness and live the life you've always wanted, join me in my Empowered Living Facebook group for socially conscious healers, witches, and spirituals, and sign up to get my free Empowered 5 Practices to Ascended Happiness guide. It's helped others expand their consciousness and soar beyond sight, sound, and imagination in just one day. It's the catalyst you need to embrace your magic and change the world. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in the group next time.